When it comes to directorial style, no other director has been so cinematically consistent as Yasujiro Otsu. With a career resulting in over 50 films, he disregarded all traditional film grammar in order to experiment with a new filming style that would eventually become uniquely his. Otsu's greatest film was Tokyo Story, which he made in 1953, but only reached the shores of the US and elsewhere in 1972. This film helped Otsu establish his reputation in the US as a respectable filmmaker. It was a great entry point for Otsu, showing what's special about his work and especially in the almost untouchable third act of his career. Reuniting him with his stars from late spring and early summer, he was able to finish off the so-called Noriko trilogy with Tokyo Story.
The
reason Otsu's films weren't exported to the West in the 1950s were because he didn't make period pieces or samurai movies, which at the time were the most popular Japanese films in the Western culture. Japanese distributors didn't think films about traditional Japanese life would be interesting to the Western viewers, so they didn't bother trying to export them at all. When Otsu's films finally reached the American shores in 1972, they were ecstatic about the simplicity of Otsu's stories compared to the Japanese films they were previously exposed to. According to Eric Snyder, Otsu's films made it to the US at an unexpected moment. Film scholar David Desser wrote that Otsu's films were relatively plotless and steeped in everyday life, made them seem, if not part, but related to the French New Wave. The French New Wave is a movement that emerged in 1958. The movement was characterized by its rejection of the era's traditional filmmaking conventions in favor of experimentation, which is exactly what Otsu achieved in 1953. The significance of Tokyo Story is that it fits in with the 1960s art house style, even though it predated it by more than a decade. When a director's visual style is noteworthy, it's usually because it's flashy or extravagant. But the opposite is true for Otsu. The calmness and simplicity of his scenes and stories are what makes them so noteworthy. With minimal camera movement and geometric placing of objects and characters within the frame, Otsu creates cinematic daydreams depicting everyday Japanese life. Even though Tokyo Story was made over half a century ago, it is still praised in modern times. Every 10 years, the British Film Institute's Sight and Sound magazine surveys a large international group of film critics and experts to compile a list of greatest films of all time. Tokyo Story appeared on the 3 most recent lists, at number 3 in 1992, number 5 in 2002, and again at number 3 in 2012. The film is also included on Time magazine and Empire magazine's lists of best films of the 20th century, thus making Tokyo Story one of the greatest films of our generation and for generations to come.